This also reminds me of when I had my arms wide open like this. It reminds me of when my brother used to come and visit when my kids were small. He'd always walk in and he'd get down on one knee and he'd open his arms wide, "Josiah, Grace!" And he'd call them, and they'd come running and he'd scoop them up and hug them. And I think about that big welcoming stance, the arms wide open, saying, "Come to me, for God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believes in him will not perish but have everlasting life. Come to me, and I will grab you and hug you, and there's room for everyone." And what else does that arms wide open stance remind you of? The cross. Yes. God is in charge of every detail. Nothing is by chance or accidental about Christ's birth, where he was born, where he lived, and the type of death that he had. His birth was foretold 700 to 1,000 years before, and Jesus fulfilled every single prophecy. Was it by chance that Jesus was born and died during the Roman occupation of Palestine? I don't think so. And was it by chance that his posture in execution was the same posture as the message that he was here to proclaim? Come to me. Come to me, you who are weary and heavy laden, and I will give you rest. Let the children come to me. Come to me, I am the way. Come to me, I am the truth. I am the life. Come to me, and I will show you the Father. So we see that the cross is not only a symbol of Christ's death, but also it's his invitation for us to come to him. A few years ago, I was having an American culture crisis. 4 years exactly. And I'm not against celebrating Christmas and all its traditions, or Easter and all its traditions. But this year I was just reevaluating everything, and I was just struggling. I was having trouble. It was on Easter time, and I was just wondering, what is all this? Dressing up. I have to buy expensive clothes and get all my kids to match in pastel colors, for this fancy church service, and we have to decorate for days, and Easter eggs and chocolate bunnies and all this like hoopla and excitement. But what does this really have to do with Jesus? Is this bringing glory to him? Is this blessing his heart? And just that year, I just was really struggling with it. I was just really wrestling. And like I said, I'm not against those things. I think they have a place. But this was just my time of crisis. And so on Easter morning, we got up early, and we brewed coffee, and we poured it into thermoses, and we boiled some hard-boiled eggs, and we took those with us and some other food, and we put it in our truck, and we loaded up the kids in our little red wagon, and we drove downtown to Phoenix, and we parked, and we got out with the food and the kids all in the wagon, and we just began walking the streets and looking for people who were all alone on Easter morning. We served them breakfast, and we wished them happy Easter, to the homeless community. And we held hands that were dirty, and we saw people in torn and tattered clothes wrapped up. We saw people sleeping on the ground by the railroad tracks. And after a while, we loaded our stuff back up, and we drove to another neighborhood, and there we found a group of about 6 of them, and they all came over, and we just opened up the back of our truck, and we stood around talking, and we were eating and drinking coffee and sharing about, Jesus. And there was, they remembered, they knew, a lot of them, they knew it was Easter morning. And we just had this great conversation about Jesus, and they were recalling even great memories in their childhood. And it was just such a beautiful time and a beautiful moment where instead of celebrating Jesus, we became Jesus.